YouTube, hello Pumpkin, my name is Mistic, and welcome back to Mistic Reacts. Today I am watching another video by Casual Geographic. Why school never taught you about the Fossa? I don't think school taught me about that many animals in general, just kind of that they exist. But I don't know what the Fossa is, so they definitely didn't teach me about it. So let's find out why. If you haven't already, like, subscribe, and comment down below. Fossa.
Taxes, and a ferocious hidden illness. Three things school ain't teach you enough about. And unfortunately, this isn't a finance channel. Of course, we're talking about the final boss of Focus, the maligned weasel, one could say measle, of Madagascar. The Fossa. And with that, there's two types of people. Those that have never perceived this rough draft cat, and those that never would have if Jada's Will would have rocked Chris and left him with Fresh Prince before they did 2 movies. And that might be because putting the Fossa on a lesson plan would mean explaining to a room full of children that concealed poop shoot is their actual name. Cryptoprocta ferox is their scientific tag, where ferox means fierce or ferocious, and Cryptoprocta refers to the Fossa's anus being hidden from the public. Fossas use scent glands to mark their territory, and these glands are found in the anal pouch, and this anal pouch is like a modesty garment for their brown balloon knot. That modesty got rewarded with the scientists immortalizing the big bad of Madagascar by its forbidden Fruit Loop. At least they're not alone. They could always start a support group with a platypus. The name almost becomes purposefully provocative when you realize there is one whole, no pun intended, genus named Fossa. This Fossa genus has one living member, and it's not the Fossa, cause screw them, that's why. It's actually the, to be fair, closely related Malagasy civet. But the fact is, a dope ass scientific name like Fossa fossana went to the civet, but the actual Fossa got stuck with missing butt muzzle. That's not the last or worst way they get screwed by their own anatomy. I think you know what's coming.
No, I don't.
But we'll get to that. Maybe the name refers to how much of a pain in the prostate figuring out what this beta-tested big cat actually was. The Fossa was first described in 1833, where they were put in the vivarid family. Not a vivid ferret, although I wouldn't blame you, but a family that has the pea smells like buttered popcorn binturong, along with civets and genets. In 1939, they were moved to a subfamily Infelidae, because folks were really sold on it being a cat. In 1945, the change of heart put incognito back with vivarids. Almost 50 years later, in 93, they got a little warmer, with a DNA study putting the Fossa at the mongoose lunch table. But it only took 2 years for someone to try to argue them back with the cats and family Felidae. An animal that hides its seat lips and a family of felines that flash it like ID should have told them the Fossa was the imposter. And eventually, something did, and they were put in the Eupluridae family in 2003. It took almost 200 years to ascertain what this unhinged roid weasel was. That still begs the question, what exactly is a Fossa? That question takes way too much time to answer, and it's probably why most schools don't even bother. So obviously I'm going to try to do it in a minute with no teaching degree. So, with Order Carnivora, there's basically 2 teams, Team Cat and Team Dog. Team Dog, Caniformia, is basically all the animals you think are dogs, and you got your pinnipeds, the raccoon family, your bears, and the weasel family, aka the animals that think they're bears. Team Cat, Feliform are, well, cats, hyenas, and the mongooses. The Fossa is on the Feliform side, and their family Eupluridae is full of animals you've never seen before. If you can name this, you're either lying or you're better than me. The Fossa family shares a common ancestor with the mongoose mafia Herpestidae, and both of them are distant cousins with the hyena family. So even though I'm pretty sure I called it a weasel twice, they're actually on opposite sides. In fact, when you think about it, mongooses are the weasels of cats, and weasels are the mongooses of dogs. Eupluridae has other Madagascar predators you've never heard of because King Julian didn't scream their name loud enough. They include 6 types of Bonceras, like this ring-tailed right here, and also mongoose members like the brown-tailed and the broad-striped. But like I said, the closest living relative of the Fossa is the Malagasy civet that snatched its chain and took his name, but best believe the Fossa gets the last word. So what is the Fossa? The Fossa is an overgrown steroid mongoose civet understudy built like a time-strung cougar with the same cursed anatomy of a hyena. Nothing about animal casserole is straightforward. Even their name had to be an argument. Anyone who had a childhood like mine would pronounce it the same way I've been doing. But if you follow the Attenborough rule, Sir David would have had you saying Fossa. What if I told you both are technically wrong? Because their name comes from the original Malagasy word, and apparently the correct way to say it is foosh. Like foosh, with a performance anxiety at the end. Experts feel free to correct me, but apparently that is the closest to the OG Malagasy pronunciation. It's just that the global game of telephone has Americans saying Fossa. while England pronounces it as Fossa. So if your point of reference is the movie, it's the Fossa! If it's Sir Attenborough or the Wild Thornberrys, it's Fossa. And if you want to feel better than everyone, it's Foosh. Now, another reason the Foosh is blacklisted from the curriculum is not just because depending on where you are, they can be thousands of miles and oceans away, but the entirety of your pluridae is endangered. And if they're not, they're endangered of being endangered. What does that mean to you? Well, it could mean a lot. You never know what cures nature could be hiding, or where.
Trees?
Scientists once studied the antibodies in llamas in hopes of curing the big cough of 2020, and many believe this moss carpet's fur may contain the key against malaria. But beyond that, losing life over there could hit your pockets here. Deforestation is the biggest reason for the flatlining of Fossa and friends, and according to this article, the same arborcidal activities can cause extreme weather that can lead to the jacking up of food prices. So yeah, something happening a world away can come back to bite you in the wallet, and you might not even realize it until you're forced to finance a carton of eggs. That's honestly why I feel pretty good about working with Ground News, because being informed has never been more important. Ground News is an app developed on the Vantage plan I'm using. If you use my link on screen, in the description, it don't matter, I'm flexible. Make sure you go to groundnews.com/casualgeo to subscribe. But anyway, Fossa are a lot. Actually, speaking on their name, we low-key don't even spell it right. The original Malagasy name is Fossa with one S. Apparently colonizers saw that and were having none of it. Also, we don't know exactly where the name comes from, but the theory is in languages like Tagalog, Pusha means cat, and in Iban, Fossa might also refer to the Malayan weasel. So I can only guess that something happened where they were like, well, this thing looks like a cat, but could also pass for a weasel, and we call both Pusha. So the logical name is Fossa, because being a Fossa means being defined by how close you are to being something else, which is actually their origin. Fossa are cats nature tried redrawing strictly from memory, and I'm not even kidding. You ever wonder how they got there in the first place?
No.
The aggressive absentness is believed to have spawned from a common ancestor about 20 million years ago, except Madagascar physically divorced from the subcontinent of India 80 million some years ago. How did the Foosh get loose on Madagascar? There's a couple theories, and the predominant one is that their ancestors rafted on floating vegetation, about 250 miles across the Mozambique Channel, a trip that would have lasted a little over a month. Really, the Fossa just proves how much nature cooked with cats. You basically had an oversized meerkat spawn on an island with no big cat apex predator. So they messed around and became one. The end game of evolving the perfect milk machine with milk is apparently cat. Fossas aren't that, but these Fossas apex is this was a reasonable crash out. They might look cute to us, but this is the reaper to the Madagascar population. Nature didn't stop at retractable claws. They have ankles that can almost turn backwards, meaning they can move through the trees like a homicidal squirrel. It's not enough that they'll run you down on land or tree, but they'll often tag team prey, with one Foss chasing prey through the trees, weaponizing predatory parkour to force them on the ground, where Fossa number 2 hawks them down. The entire jungle is food to a Fossa, even their closest cousin. There was an actual problem where researchers were trying to study the Malagasy civet, but Fossas kept following trap lines and eating the captured animals. Fossa move on their own timing, literally. They're cathemeral, meaning they're active whenever they feel like. There's no combination of numbers on a clock when a Fossa can't strike, which is why their main personality trait is inflicting primal panic in lemurs. Not only is half their diet lemur meat, they'll straight up rip sleeping lemurs out of napping spots. They tell stories about the Fossa. This is their Freddy Cougar. That is one bad motherfucker. She-fucker. That is a she-fucker, and they're named after the sound they make in the face of a Fossa. Oh shit, because Fossa will eviscerate them, with scientists finding Faka's life deprived with their intestines ripped out. Fossa will flatline anything lemur, even the ones weighing nearly as much as they do. You think they give a Faka? No, they take them straight off the census. She-faka, he-faka, you-faka, and in Fossa's eyes, anyone can get it. Millions of years being marooned on an island does things to you, and one of the consequences is Fossas do something no other mammal does. The following is strictly for educational purposes. That being said, it might just be time to put the kids to bed. Fossas can't change from girls to guys, but boy do they do everything to convince you otherwise. Fossa go through transient masculinization, where they develop the same pseudo situation hyenas got. Except with them, it involves a young female Fossa flitteris growing large enough and spiky enough to make them anatomically identical to a male. They'll even release the same musky orange product males do. The difference is, where hyenas have to pass kids like a kidney stone, eventually the Fossa's baby-making business end goes back to normal. But for a time, you really can't tell male from female. And that might just be the point. There's some things about this freak-off ferret that makes being young, female, and Fossa the worst combination. Female Fossas are highly territorial because they'll make love in the same tree year after year. Call it the tree of life. And Fossa foreplay involves the female sitting high up in the tree with starving males down below competing for her time. Now the thing with Fossas is the female will spend nearly a week in the tree where she'll be visited by several males. 4, 5, sometimes 6, 7. Some yellow lights don't get ran through that much, and there is no honor system. Males will often climb up the tree to shoot their shot while the female's already physically occupied by another. So yeah, it's a Fossa freak-off free-for-all. Imagine the ones from the movie, but instead of feeding for food, they desperately fall over each other trying to make a baby mother, which might explain the gender bending. Young females can get put on a shirt by an older vindictive female and put in a hearse by a horde of hormonal males. This can really be a problem since apparently males can't tell when a female is ovulating, so they just keep trying, which could kill an inexperienced female cause, well, they're not the only ones with some nonsense in the nethers. Fossas hold a world record, and that's having the largest penis relative to body size of any mammal. They somehow beat out the tapir, and I've seen one use his as a tripod and a back scratcher. But I guess a 30-inch animal dragging a nearly 8-inch nectar dispenser is notable. Educational purposes, I swear, because the sheer coital competition is why Fossas are hung like an adolescent donkey. They also have a baculum, which is a bone to allow the male to stay in the game as long as possible, even when the coach, other players, and even ref want him out. And not only that, they also have backward-facing spines on their procreation pickle, which makes retraction not impossible, but incredibly uncomfortable.
Backwards.
Can't even imagine how that feels. Or maybe I just don't want to. We probably wouldn't even know all this if they weren't so damn loud about it. It's also hard to miss that females can put in 14-hour shifts in one day with multiple males, or sometimes just one. Not only will a Fossa couple go at it for hours, they can spend an extra one stuck in the same physical tie dogs get caught in. Of course, this means nothing to the competition, with researchers witnessing females having to chase off males while still attached cat dog style to their last body. And sometimes multiple rivals climb the tree to fight the male while he's still baculum deep. It's straight player hating, and why Fossas do it at the very tops of the trees, like a tryst on trapeze. Some males will even play defense by guarding the female hours after they mate, especially if that male got interrupted. The couple can even injure themselves, and there's a non-zero chance the male falls and breaks his baculum. It's an entirely unpleasant process from start to finish, and if I have to know that, you do too, and if you unclick for that, I wouldn't blame you. But really makes you look at these guys different, and when your own conception is that demon-esque, unfortunately it's no surprise when they get treated like one. In Malagasy culture, there's something called fadi. My understanding is fadi are spiritual beliefs Malagasy people live by, basically cultural taboos ingrained into their society. For example, eating with a hat on, considered fadi, and the punishment is baldness. Eating while standing is fadi, and the penalty could be famine. There's hundreds of examples of fadi, and one of them actually protects the Fush. It's said that Fossas will feed on the long-expired bodies of ancestors buried in the forest, making it fadi to eat Fossa meat. But Fossa have some other freaky folklore about them, like one that says they crawl out the forest at night to steal babies straight out the cradle. Another legend tells of Fushas licking a sleeping person to put them in an unbreakable trance so they can disembowel them. Another says the Fossa's smell is enough to drop chickens dead on the spot, literally instant death through mustiness. Yeah, lemurs aren't the only things with thumbs that don't think much of the afterpick of an anti-drug PSA for predators. But of course, the Madagascar murder mongoose is almost zero threat to humans. To a lemur, that's a death threat, but to humans, they're just overly ambitious raccoons. Compare that to the absolute number done on the cryptic chocolate Cheerio by man, and it's no matchup. If they're not actively getting screwed over by property development, Fossa get flatlined in retaliation for preying on poultry. Not to mention many will defy fatty, as in up to half of all Malagasy communities, Fossa flesh is regularly eaten. Honestly, Madagascar as a whole is in danger, with over 90% of her forests already gone. And keep in mind, many like the Foss are only found on the Big Red Island, so once they're gone from there, they're gone for good. Better appreciate it while it's still here, and who knows, maybe I'll take a trip down there. No promises though, I've already made too many. But as for later, for now, drink water, hug your mother, spread the Fossa word. If school won't, we will. Touch grass, call your father, and I'ma see y'all in the next one.
Hell yeah. That is a very interesting animal. The Fossa. The fish. Until next time, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. And yeah. Until next time. Bye.